Right now, people ask me, hey, this third district in Kansas, is it a lost cause for Republicans? Should they even bother after the blowouts of the last two cycles, of course, by Sharice Davids? Well, our next guest here in studio is hoping to turn that tide and get Republicans back in control of the 3rd Congressional District. He is Dr. Prasanth Reddy. He joins us on KCMO. What's up, Doc? How are you? Good morning.
I'm doing awesome, Pete. Always great to be here. Love connecting with your listeners.
Well, take me through what you've been up to on the campaign trail. I mean, you're getting your name out there. Fundraising is obviously a big part of trying to beat somebody like Sharice Davids. What's been going on in your front as you get introduced to the 3rd District, especially here in Johnson County?
Lots of activities, Pete. Lots of activities. We're doing lots of fundraising activities, lots of grassroots activities, going to the neighborhoods, shaking hands, meeting real people. Whether it's law enforcement, whether it's moms, whether it's business owners, we're making the rounds, burning some rubber.
All right. Well, I know one of the biggest issues on people's minds is now immigration. I mean, it used to be kind of an issue that maybe the base of the party cared about, but now, I mean, even majority of just voters at large across the board are open to mass deportations after the last 3 years. As an immigrant yourself, what have you been telling people on where this country needs to go on the immigration front?
Pete, that's easy, right? As a legal immigrant, I've been to the border. I've been to the Yuma sector. Down there, I said something very simple. I said, if we can't secure the border, we can't secure the American dream. Everything that's happening in the border is an absolute disgrace. It's affecting crime, whether it's the drug crisis. I've had friends who've lost, their kids in our district to fentanyl overdose. Mm-hmm. There's an uptick in crime that's violent crime. There's trafficking issues. Then, of course, there's the humanitarian and economic repercussions. We got to control the border, and President Biden and, by default, our current incumbent are not doing enough.
Have you really heard anything? I don't know. I haven't from the incumbent on this issue at all?
Not really, other than in the past, like saying that she wanted to defund ICE. And as it stands to President Biden's recent quote fix, we create the problem. Remain in Mexico was in place. H.R. 2, which is a Republican initiative in the House, should have passed. It would have protected the border. We create the problem, have 11 million people come across the border illegally, classify them as seeking amnesty, and we're then repurposing it for other kinds of things. It makes absolutely no sense, Pete.
What is your personal story as a legal immigrant? How did you come to this country? What was that story?
Hey, my dad came here as a student to live the American dream. We based it on education. I wound up, growing up in Manhattan, Kansas. I went to Kansas State University and then KU Med. That's what this is about. This is about doing it the right way, the legal way. And nobody's a bigger supporter of immigrants than me, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's needs in this country, and we need to have a legal process, maybe even work programs. Amnesty is not the solution.
So when you look at this situation, Dr. Reddy, and how bad it is right now on the border, you mentioned some of the answers there, but what needs to happen? What can Congress do if you're in a Republican majority House coming up in January of 25? What needs to happen?
Well, the first thing is we got to get good, strong support for, having a secure border. That means expanding the wall. That means, associated funding for technologies like drone technology, surveillance technology. And then, of course, maybe the most important thing, supporting our men and women in law enforcement. That's where we're going to start. The secondary thing is, if there's other needs in the country, for example, labor needs, mm-hmm. Of course we want to support that. But the way we support that is through, thoughtful, well-designed job programs, not amnesty.
Mm-hmm. What about the cops? I know, law enforcement, you just alluded to them there. You're a big supporter of them. There's a group that stayed out of this race, at least the last election cycle, that has thrown its weight behind you. Who is that and why?
So it's the AFL-CIO, kind of unusual, right? Not exactly, all the time supporters of Republicans, but the AFL-CIO, largest police union, got behind us and endorsed us. And I'll just point out, in the last cycle, people ask, why is this time going to be different? Well, this is why it's different. Last cycle, they didn't endorse either candidate. Mm-hmm. And this cycle, they've endorsed us, and I couldn't be prouder because the men in law enforcement deserve our support.
Why is this cycle going to be different? Why can it be different? Because you know as well as I do. I mean, double-digit losses, a worse loss in 22 than 20.
Because this is going to be a movement, Pete. The reason why this is going to be different is we're talking to folks everyday folks about why this is important. I'll just tie back to law enforcement for a sec. I asked those folks locally 3 questions. I said, are you proud of what you do? Why did you get into law enforcement in the first place? And would you have your kids join, law enforcement in the future? And you can obviously know the answers to those questions as being very emotionally charged and unfortunately unfair to folks, men and women, that are serving our communities. That is how we're going to win. That is how we picked up that endorsement. This is about doing the right things for our community, our district, and our country. That is the key. And if we can explain to folks our positions and why this is so important, this is going to be a landslide in the opposite direction.
You're going to have to flip a lot of, multi-time Sharice Davids voters, notably in Johnson County. Your predecessor on the GOP side could not effectively do that. Is it your story that will do that? Is it your messaging? Is it, ad campaigns? What's going to do it for you, Prasanth Reddy?
It's all of the above, Pete. I mean, I think I've had the honor, the luxury of living the American dream. I want to protect that American dream. That is critically important. Separately, I think on the issues, for example, we just spoke about law enforcement. We're different. We're reaching people a different way. And we are going to connect with folks. And that, of course, means that we got to do fundraising. We got to reach out to folks and make sure that we have that connection, because that's how it's going to, get to the finish line. We got to excite people. And we're going to get there with everybody that's listening right now. Get activated, get involved. Make sure you come to readyforkansas.com. If you can volunteer, do that. If you can chip in on fundraising, do that.
Prasanth Reddy is on KCMO. He is running in the 3rd district race, hoping to be the guy to go up against Sharice Davids. What's the biggest weakness for Sharice Davids right now as you see it?
Well, look, I think, actions speak louder than words. And this shouldn't be a marketing campaign. That's the negative side of politics. And we can look at a lot of actions and say, is this consistent with helping our district? I'll give you an example. For example, look at law enforcement. Defunding ICE is not a good policy, right? Not securing the border, that's not a good idea, right? And Sharice hasn't done enough to show us that she wants to provide for the common defense, a core function of government in the preamble of the Constitution, right? If you look at the needs of our constituents in this district, for example, there's a water treatment, facility that, our incumbent put into a bill and then voted against that bill to provide some needed infrastructure for our communities in this district. Those things don't make any sense. We just spent trillions of dollars, in an infrastructure package. And right here in the heart of our district, there's a highway, US 69, that's being funded primarily through tolls. Well, the taxpayers just spent, a lot of money to make sure that we had better infrastructure for our community. And why is it that we're paying extra in our district for a highway when we just spent so much money through, a questionable bill, and we're not even reaping the benefits of that bill? Those things don't make sense, Pete. And we got to go back and ask these basic questions to say, are we meeting the needs of our community and our district? And I think Sharice Davids needs to, address these. By the way, I'm going to throw this out here. Anytime, anywhere, debates on any of these issues, happy to have them.
Anytime, anywhere, you'll debate her, including
Anytime,
right here in the KCMO studios?
Absolutely, Pete.
I'm not sure she'll take us up on that, but we can try. We can at least make the ask. Ready for Kansas, that's REDDYFOR, readyforkansas.com, the best way to find you, right?
That's it, Pete. That's it.
All right. Thanks for being here, Doc. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Pete.
That is Dr. Prasanth Reddy running for the 3rd District in Kansas on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.